Either way. Yeah.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Venice High School Basketball Coaches Show. Guy Wayman here, and we've got Coach John Flynn and his special guest, James Slayton. And I don't think you're in a relationship to the astronaut, are you, Deke Slayton?
No.
Oh, you have to talk into the microphone there.
Long lost cousin.
That's right. We lost him on Mars or something way up in there. Okay. Anyways, though, John, it's been a week and some more basketballs under the belt here. And tell us what's going on.
Yeah, guys, been a good week. Since we last got together last Monday. We played Wednesday night against Southeast at home and won that game. And then had a couple good practices with everybody. We were talking about trying to mesh all those guys together last time we were talking. So we've had some good practices. We've had another good one today, one tomorrow, and then we're ready to roll Wednesday and Friday at home, Sarasota first, and then DeSoto. So it's coming together pretty good. And then of course the 14th will be down in ECS, Evangelical Christian, for that kickoff premier game for City of Palms.
Now, what is nice is that Sarasota, that's close. DeSoto is close. And so I don't want to say rivalry games, but they're close enough that they could become that.
Yeah, I mean, Sarasota, should be a real good rivalry game. I guess, back at one time.
All right. And now let's talk about what happened. Any games last week?
Southeast on Wednesday.
Okay, how'd you do?
Yeah, we beat Southeast by 7. We were down most of the game and then came back the third and fourth quarter. First home game, everybody was kind of jacked up. I don't think we played particularly well, but good enough to win, I guess, and that's getting the W is all that matters. But we're meshing the football guys together with the with the squad that we've had, the 8 guys that we had. So
now that very first week you played, the football guys really weren't in there, so now you're starting to get it together.
Yeah, now we got them together. So, of course, it was a good show. It was a packed gym. They're all coming to watch, Malachi Weidman play and all that stuff, which is great for the other kids and it's good for the program. So he kind of, after sitting the first quarter, went in the second, third, and fourth, played really well. But he's rusty, too, and it just was not pretty. It wasn't a pretty game.
Sure.
But, again, to get the W and get out of there, Southeast is a good basketball team. They always have pretty decent teams there. So we were lucky to get out with one, and it gave us plenty to work on for the next couple of days.
All right. We're live here at Pop Sunset Grill, the Basketball Coaches Show. And not to rub it in for those of you watching across the country, it was 80 degrees today here in Venice and Southwest Florida, whether it was Venice, Northport, or Englewood, or even Sarasota. We are rubbing it in.
Well, we're going to rub it in for sure because you remember last week we were here, the temperature dropped 15 degrees on us during the show. It was howling wind and it was kind of nasty. So, I'm looking at the sunset over here right now on the Intercoastal. And like I said, if you're nearby, you got to make a stop at Pops for sure.
The Intercoastal is literally about 50 to 75 feet that way.
Exactly. So, great place to do the show from, great place to come and eat and have a few drinks on the sunset for sure.
Okay, introduce James Slayton with us.
Yeah, James Slayton's a good friend of mine. He's our Sarasota County athletic director, former basketball coach at Venice High School. And I thought, when we were talking about guests and stuff, I thought it would be nice to have James on. Last week we kind of got into how some of the rules and keeping up with everything is getting so crazy for athletic departments and stuff. I thought maybe it was a good segue for you to come in and we're just talking about different things and kids moving and paperwork and what has to take place. So we're glad that James could make it tonight, and we're glad to have him.
All right, James, tell us about what's going on. Well, by the way, congratulations.
I want to say thank you for having me on. I was the head coach here for many years, and John was my assistant, and I was also the head coach at Northport High School. So I've been around the county for a long time, and basketball is really on the rise. And John's done a great job with the Venice basketball program, and we've got other really, really good teams around the county. So I think this year could be an exciting year for basketball in Sarasota County. And, of course, we're here about Venice basketball tonight. And I think Venice has a chance to do really, really well. They're in a tough district. We've got new districts across the board.
Now explain, because some people don't quite understand what's going on, but it's now more of like a metrics, and it's going on with max preps. And explain.
It is. So it's brand new, and it's in many of our team sports. But for boys basketball and girls basketball in particular, the You don't have to play that regular season district schedule, which you had to play in the past. So now you can schedule how you want. It's going to be your postseason will be based on rankings. So your rankings are going to come out at the end of the season, and he'll be seeded according to those rankings for the district tournament. So let's say he gets the 1 seed, somebody else gets the 6 seed, and so on and so forth. So those rankings will happen, and then the district tournament plays at that point. So you may not play any of those teams in the regular season, and you only see them in the district tournaments. So a little different, but I think it could create some excitement. So once the district tournament takes place, the only team that's automatically in the state playoffs is the district champion.
Being the AD, the athletic director, you're in charge of the whole county, so it's not like 1 or 2 schools. How many schools are you overseeing?
Well, we've got 5 of our public. We've got 2 charters at Imagine and Sarasota Military. So we got 7 high schools, and then we've got 9 middle schools that we also cover as well. So a lot of sports on any night. We can, in fact, I'm leaving here going to a soccer game.
Oh, all right. So it's not just basketball; it's all sports.
No, I can't just watch basketball, even though I'm a basketball guy. But yeah, so it's we cover a lot of different sports, and we've got a lot of new sports in our county. But it's basketball season. It's winter time, even though it's 80 degrees. We're wearing short sleeves, but it's basketball time. It's December, and it's an exciting time. So
you know it because. And the other sports, when you arrive at the sports, whether it's 7 or 7:30, it's daylight out.
Yeah.
Right now, it's starting to get darker between 5:30 and 6, and so you arrive there, and it's like, well, wait a minute. It seems like it's more like 10 o'clock at night, doesn't it, John?
For sure, and that's how you know it's basketball season.
Yeah.
When the clock goes back and you're pulling in the gym at dark and you're leaving at dark. That's how you kind of know it is. So it's also good for the gym too, because we don't have any issues with some those big huge windows in the gym, and so dark is good for us. I mean, as bright as we are in our gym, it's pretty good.
Yeah, and kind of going back, I want to hit on the district tournament a little bit. So the district, a little bit different in years past, the runner-up would automatically be in the playoffs. District champion, of course, was in. But now the district champion's in, and then it goes back to those matrix you were talking about. They will take an account for your regular season plus the district tournament, and you could have a team like Venice. You've got in their district, you've got Charlotte, you've got Fort Myers. I mean, you might have 3 of the better teams.
Which is a jaunt going all the way down to Fort Myers. That's
exactly
45 minutes to an hour away.
But you've got 3 teams that could be some of the best teams in Southwest Florida. Well, in years past, that team that didn't make the district championship, their season's over. It just happened in football, actually, where multiple teams from the same district made it into the state playoffs.
Do you miss coaching?
I miss coaching. I don't miss
some
of the sleepless nights that
you probably missed the development of the young kids and building their character maybe more than the stress of the game.
Yeah, the stress, people don't realize, number one, the amount of time that goes into it is 24/7, 365. And not only that, and then it's the stress of every night. You've got to be ready to play for the next night, and you've got to be ready to go scout tonight. It's different than people realize. And
plus we're making all that money, right? All that money we're making.
Make a little more. But for the most part, I can be a parent. I've got 2 kids in the Venice High program. I've got a freshman that's on the JV, and I've got a junior on the varsity. So I can be a parent, which is pretty cool. I've never done that. Yeah. I can sit up in the stands and watch. And, I told John I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to tell him how to coach. But I may put a little suggestion box in the corner. People can drop off stuff when they leave. But, I'm joking, but those are the things that, as a normal fan, you don't realize the amount of time these guys put in.
Now, I know John's got some other questions here, but we talked a little bit about this last week. The teams cannot schedule more than 25 games where, you might have had the requirements of district play before, but for example, 4 or 5 or 6 of his games will be in maybe this the City of Palms tournament or maybe the Proventure tournament, and when it comes right down to it, he might only have a dozen to 15 games of the surrounding teams, but there is a limit that caps at 25. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, that is correct. So he's got 25 games he can play regular season, and of course you want to try to get all those in so that you can, max out your rankings,
especially this year.
especially this year with the rankings. Absolutely.
So you want to
So-
schedule tougher teams, then, don't you, John?
You need a. It's well. I tell you, not to cut you off there, but what the issue that you have is that when you're scheduling now, because this is our first year, how do you schedule? Do you schedule hard teams and take a beating in wins and losses? Do you kind of try to get a balance? Do you have some guys who are coming who maybe you didn't know were coming? So you have a lot of decisions that go into it, and this year was probably the hardest because we weren't sure what was going on back in the summer, who's here, who's where. So you kind of got to balance it out as much as you can. So I think it all works sort of to our favor. I think we're okay as far as the harder teams that we play. We have some softer teams that we play, but then you throw in the City of Palms, you throw in some other tournament games that we didn't really know we were going to have. So I think I got a little lucky because I think the schedule is pretty decent. But there's some guys who are, obviously if you know you're stacked and you're going to be able to compete at a high level, you want to go play everybody you can.
Yeah.
You want to go, you want to play we're playing Charlotte and Fort Myers, could be the two best teams in our area, in the whole state. Down when it gets down to it. But, you could go to Miami and play New Orleans. You can go, to Deerfield Beach. You can go anywhere you want. If you know that you have that kind of caliber. But at some point, you got to kind of get a balance there somewhere.
I think a great example was Venice Volleyball.
Hold that a little bit closer there.
Venice Volleyball went 12-12 in the regular season, but they're playing some of the top teams in Florida and around the country. They ended up being the number 1 seed in the region. So I think there's a balance between, yes, you want to play some tough teams, but those teams that are middle of the road or lower, you better beat them. And
in other words, win the ones you're supposed to win.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, if you get upset by a team that you really should have that really hurts you. That hurts you. So if you're going to schedule something a little, I don't want to say softer, but maybe a little bit better, an easier game that you should be winning, and you lose that game, it's really going to cost you big.
Yeah, it's like the Patriots playing Miami Dolphins there. You're supposed to win that game.
Exactly.
Don't get beat by the Dolphins.
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. But I'm telling you, as it goes on now, as we get better at it, you're going to – and again, it all depends on what you got. If you can compete at that level, why not? Why not go 12-12? Who cares? Nobody really cares. It doesn't really matter. It only matters, when you get to February. And that's really where you get seeded and all stuff like that, because that's really what you're playing for, being that you don't have to worry about playing. Now, in my district, I'm playing 2 district teams, Sarasota on Wednesday night and Charlotte. That's it.
So you're starting right off at the beginning part of the season.
Yeah, and I'm not playing, but I'm not playing Braden River. I'm not playing North Fort Myers. I'm not playing, on and on and on. So, and I'm not playing Fort Myers. So it's just, like for instance, at Charlotte, I'm going to play Charlotte no matter what.
Now you don't hold that against him that he's not playing because is there a district per se?
There's a district, but we don't have to play district games.
Now,
there we go.
It was Xavier. No, is Azaria
with an A.
Azaria with an A, and you got to come down. This is Pop Sunset Grill. Right here is like chicken tenders and fries. And what do you got there?
A little blackened chicken on some salad. Beautiful.
Grilled buffalo shrimp.
Goodness. Come on down next week and join us. There's plenty of seats around here.
Looking
and
good.
You can even ask the coach a question.
Looking good right now. That's awesome. So anyway, the question was about district. So you're in a district, but you don't have to play district teams. Mm-hmm. The district tournament doesn't start until after the season's over. So that's the difference in the setup that they have now.
Yeah, and that helps us too, from a district perspective.
Pass over the silverware there.
We're limited on our transportation budgets.
And we're eating in front of you on purpose because we want you to come down here and join us next week. Right, John?
Absolutely, for sure.
Pops is amazing. Love this place.
Okay, go ahead, James.
But, yeah, from a district perspective, if you have to play every team, if they've got to play twice against Fort Myers and some of these teams down south, that gets extremely expensive from a district with travel, and you're playing on a Tuesday night down in Fort Myers, and you may have to get a charter bus. So now,
thank you.
John can be a little more creative and play some stuff like a City of Palms over the break, and some holiday tournaments that are pretty tough over the break where transportation, they can do some more creative things versus costing his school big time amounts of their budget.
Explain the City of Palms, because and how that might relate to other people across the country. What is the City of Palms? It's down in Fort Myers, but is that just is that a round robin type of thing? But it's
they've
pretty,
got. I'm going to talk real quick, and then I'll let John finish. But they've got multiple games, and but these are the best teams in America. These are not just the top teams in Southwest Florida or Florida, but these are the best teams in the country. Many of these guys are going to end up in the NBA. the chance to play in this tournament for him the night before, or actually the game before the championship game, it will be standing room only in a 5,000-seat college arena. It's something that Venice has never done. Riverview's actually in it the week before. They're playing.
Now, is that Sarasota Riverview?
Sarasota Riverview.
It's not the Tampa Riverview.
They're in the 16-team tournament. Venice is considered a showcase game that they're playing against Lehigh before the championship. So they're actually playing probably in one of the biggest crowds that night for the tournament will be that night. So there's many different games that are within the tournament, but it is known as the number one tournament in America.
Now, is that in multiple gymnasiums,
No.
or is it just in one gymnasium?
One place.
Let me turn you back up.
Yeah. One. It's in one place. It's in the Credit Card Arena down in Fort Myers.
So there's only one court.
One court, and it seats about 7,000, something like that, down at that facility. So, like James was saying, it's from the best teams in America who will be there, and there is a tournament. There's a regular tournament that Riverview is in that you'll play, you go through rounds and rounds, and it'll be. The biggest part about that is that the really good teams like the IMGs and the St. Francis Academies and like schools like that, they're playing for ranking. So that's a national ranking deal there. So you need to be good. So every person that you pretty much see and those last couple of games for sure, you will also see next year playing at some big college, and the year after you'll probably see him in the NBA. There's been, I can't remember how many, there is 50 or 60 kids or something came out of that thing so far. I was reading about it. So it's a big deal for us. Like James said, it's a showcase game for us. It's the Timler Classic. He was the basketball coach at Edison Community College for years and years and years. So it's a tribute game to him. They're going to have that every year now at the City of Palms.
And Edison is named after the guy with the lights.
Yeah, that was the guy.
And there's an Edison part of Fort Myers, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and it's the same, it's named after the same guy. This is a tribute to him. So it's really good that we got a chance to play a really good team like Lehigh. It's really good for our school. It's good for our community, and it's really good for the players. I mean, this is good exposure for them on stuff that they would have never ever gotten before. We're just darn lucky to get a chance to go down there. But it starts for us this Saturday, because this Saturday is the kickoff of that tournament.
Wow.
And we're at Evangelical Christian, like I was saying earlier, and we played down there at 1:40 or so on Saturday against Dunbar, which is a really good school in Fort Myers. It's a good basketball school. So,
all right, we're going to let you eat some of that blackened chicken. Boy, that looks fantastic.
Good call.
The academic side of it, being the athletic director of the county, you look at that and it's like, well, wait a minute, we're training young men and women in all these athletics endeavors, and yet you want to keep that academic standard up there. And we're seeing some of these schools that come out with kids that are 3.5, 3.7, 3.2. We're not talking schlubs here. I mean, these kids really work hard in the classroom as well.
Yeah, for sure. And every year teams from our district, from Sarasota County, win academic state championships, and we honor them at our board meetings. And Venice is no different. And I'll say this about Venice basketball: they've been top 3 in GPA for the state of Florida in their classification for probably the past 15, 20 years. So
that's in
academics,
the whole state.
That's in the whole state, and academics is very good, not only at Venice High School but in our district. And I know John does a great job of encouraging that, tracking that. All of our coaches do such a good job with making sure that those kids are doing what they're supposed to. They're called a student athlete, which student comes first. And in order to be an athlete, you better be a student. And at Venice, I know he promotes that big time, and he has some great students that work really hard. But at the same time, he's got to make sure that he's tracking that, and he has people in place that help him with that.
Now, does he submit the reports to you, or does he submit it to the Athletic Association of the state?
He'll submit it to his school, and then his school will submit it to the state, and then, of course, I see those things. But, yes. Pete Dombrowski and his wife, Pam, who's our athletic secretary, submits all those things to the state. So,
people don't understand athletic directors. It's more than just saying, "Oh, we gotta find a coach for this job here. We've got to find a coach here, and I'm going to go watch them play soccer over here." There are a lot of things underneath the surface that you have to take care of, and if you don't know what you're doing,
absolutely.
I mean, the thing can go sideways.
Well, and John knows as a head coach, and he was the head girls coach prior to being now the head boys coach at Venice. But literally coaching is the least thing that you do. It's all the other things, the planning, the academics, the preparation, the weight room, the, meeting with players, talking with teachers, scheduling, all those things, meeting with your coaches, all those things happen way more than actually the on-the-floor coaching. So,
and scheduling has to do with travel. Okay, I've got to take kids from A to B, making sure that the gymnasium is open and available for practice and or a game, because they might have a dance in there, Jim or John.
That's the deal. That's the situation with Pam Dombrowski and our athletic office. They make sure that the calendars are booked. We have to sit down with her and give her all the information that we have as far as our games, our practice times, and then that goes into a system. And this way, there's no double bookings and stuff like that, which used to happen on occasion back in the old days when everything was done by word of mouth or written on a napkin or something. But now there's a program for that where they fill up everything and everybody knows what's going on, because we also have other things going on there too. We have churches that use the school. We have, travel volleyball and things like that. So everybody has to be on the same page. It's mostly coordinated through the athletic department at Venice High. And it's the old story, garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not giving them good information on what you're doing, there's probably a chance that maybe there may be a screw up somewhere. So we don't have that. We haven't had that issue late, in the last couple of years.
You are blessed in that there are two gyms at Venice. You have a north and a south.
Yeah, but they're being
they
used.
can both be used.
They're being used all the time. I mean, there's something going on somewhere, somehow, either from in school or out of school. So it's not like it's just like laying over there doing nothing. I mean, there's people in it, and they're using my JVs. When we're practicing in the big gym, the JVs are in the small gym. So that's sort of how that goes. And it's the same thing with the girls. It's the same thing with volleyball. It's being used by, volleyball's got 3 teams, freshman team as well. So they got to use all of it. So it's like we said last week, it's a tremendous amount of coordination that goes on to make it happen. And we're pretty lucky. We don't really have a whole lot of mistakes made at our school anyway.
No.
Well, now that you're gone, James, I mean,
yeah, it's helped a lot. I'm going to be honest with you. They've cleaned up a lot of that stuff. But no, I mean, that's one of the. In fact, I've got a district athletic meeting tomorrow with all our athletic directors, our assistant principals over athletics for our district. Many of our athletic secretaries will be there tomorrow. But that's a big part. I mean, people don't realize all the behind-the-scenes stuff from also, safety and security, making sure your ticket takers are there, making sure that there's administrative coverage. We have to have administrative coverage at every game. So there's so many things that go on. And now with Max Preps being big, he's got to make sure that he has all his stuff updated, scheduling, scores, all those things are so important now that the rankings count. And the state will start. They haven't done it with Venice, or actually we haven't had a single school in Sarasota County fined, and we better not, but for not getting their stuff updated properly. So that's been big as well.
Being broadcasting, we're going to talk about the broadcast of these games coming up, though, but you would go there to find the students' names to call a game, whether it was football, whether it was volleyball, whether it was baseball or basketball, and there are schools that didn't put anything in there to try and psych out maybe the other guys, but yet now you're saying you're trying to make it more mandatory. You've got to be up to date with this.
Yeah, and that's Max Preps has been.
You know what I'm talking about.
For sure. Max Preps has been the leader in statistics and scheduling and all those things for high school sports for years. They've paired with Florida with the FHSAA in order to help us with our rankings and all those things. It's a very user-friendly website. It's something we've used at Venice and when I was at Northport for years and years. Some people don't use it as much, but now it's mandated because it's so important because of these rankings. When we get to the end of the season, you've got your rosters and your stats need to be updated and all those things. So even though many schools have used it for years, you're right. There are some that will try to hide behind those things and they take a loss and they don't enter their scores and those kind of things. Those days are gone.
Uniform numbers are a big one.
Yeah.
The uniform numbers, they're
sure.
white on white.
Yeah.
And it's like that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do that so it doesn't come across on film and things like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't help anybody.
But now you can't hide from it. Now it's part of what we're doing, and it's got to be in
and
there.
So they're actually penalized.
They're actually they're being fined. I mean, they're threatening fines to people who are not going to do it, and you have to have it all in there at a certain time. so that everybody knows what's going on. Especially, and by the way, it's your ranking, it's your information. I think you'd want to be a part of that, and you want to make sure you're up to date with it and everything, because it's going to go against you. It's not going to go against anybody else.
Yeah, the person that's going to get upset is your principal. So when that fine comes from the FHSAA and they ask you why did you not get your stuff entered, they're going to be less likely to want to pay that.
Exactly.
So it is important, and especially now that those rankings matter. We're different. There are a few states that do these ranking systems, but Florida is probably one of 3 in the country.
Is Florida on the cutting edge, on the leading edge of all of this across the country? I mean,
yeah,
out
there
of the
are a
50
few
states?
others. California uses some. There are a couple others that do, but I think it's something unique. It makes it exciting. And honestly, it makes every game matter. People talked about in the past, you only need to worry about your district. You better worry about all 25. Because if you don't worry about all 25, it's going to really affect your rankings. So that district is important, of course, because that's what's going to matter at the end of the season. But, during the 25, you better be ready to play every night.
For sure.
And that makes it pretty exciting. That every time you show up to a gym, it matters. And it matters in all of many of our other sports as well.
This is Remotes Army. We're glad that you are joining us this evening. This is the Venice High School Basketball Coaches Show with Coach John Flynn. We'll be here again next week. We're live at Pop Sunset Grill on Monday nights at 6 p.m. And then we'll have 3 more the last 3 Mondays of January after the holidays. We're not going to be having them during the holidays because Pops will be loaded. A beautiful day down here in Southwest Florida. And hit the subscribe button. And then when we go live, then you'll know about that. So hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. And when you hit the bell, the minute we go live, you'll be notified through your email account. It says Remotes Army is live. And our next game, and we are so thankful that Pete has granted us the broadcast rights, and we're going to be doing 8 of your games.
Yep, 8 of our games coming up, starting this week with Wednesday and Friday. And then a bunch of them sprinkled in throughout the rest of the way. So it's awesome. I mean, it's just awesome. I think I've gotten so much positive feedback from folks in our program and outside of the program as far as having grandparents and aunts and uncles who are not, we talked about it last week, not in town, who want to watch their grandson or their nephew or something like that. And I think the service is fantastic. The kids love it. The parents love it. And we're just excited to have it.
Well, the games are archived, and so after the game has gone live and it's no longer live, people can go back and watch the game, and so that's when the aunts and uncles, grandmas and grandpas, and the student athletes can go back and say, hey, look at that shot, or boy, I really messed up on that one.
It's funny that you say that, because I remember during the volleyball season where you guys, I guess he pulled some video down or something and he didn't want
that was at the request of the coach.
Yeah, and I understand, and it's funny because there's so much video that's being transferred around in basketball. I mean, I get videos every day. I send videos every day to other coaches on scouting and stuff like that. So it's really not a big deal for us because there's so much of that information being passed around anyway. I'll be in Fort Myers tomorrow night watching Dunbar. I'll get a tape. I mean, everybody's got tape on people, and so don't worry about that for us. That's fine. You can leave them up. Everybody's going to have a copy of it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
And I find that what happened, even with volleyball, volleyball's got a good following, is that it's actually created more interest into the games and into the sport, and there's nothing like being there live in person.
No doubt.
And when I called the basketball games on radio, it was a lot of fun and people came out. But now that they are actually seeing some of the players there, and we're going to talk about some of your seniors and stuff, but seeing them on screen makes a big difference.
Well, I got to tell you something. It's funny. A couple years ago, I had a work meeting that I had to attend on the East Coast, and I had to miss a game. The only one I've had to miss. I had to miss a game, and I remember sitting in the hotel room I was at after our meeting and our stuff, and I remember sitting in the hotel with the radio on, listening to you call that game. And I can't remember who was it against, but it was fantastic listening to it on the radio. I've listened to them remotes for volleyball. I've seen it, listened to them on if I couldn't be, which is very unusual because excuse me.
Did you want something from our server Azaria?
Salt and pepper. I remember not being able to make it to a volleyball game and watched it on the remote. It was awesome. It's just a great thing, and the kids enjoy it. We enjoy it, and I think it just gives people enough. It gives us a little bit more outreach for sure.
You know what it does? It uses the modern day technology. Because we're not back in the 20s or the 30s or when this was the only technology we had, but now we're using this technology. And James, what do you think about that? That we're actually, it's not like CBS or something where we can come out there with 8 or 10 cameras, because that costs a lot of money. But at the same time, you still get that visual image of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's all about how can we promote high school sports, and it has changed a lot. But yeah, you've got a grandparent out in, KJ's got his grandparents out in Seattle, so they can see him play.
Yeah,
it's a pretty special thing that it doesn't have to be just you have to be here, even though that's nice, and it is a different experience when you're at the game. And I tell you what,
yeah.
Being at the game the other night, big crowd. I've been in a lot of Venice basketball games, and that was an awesome crowd and an awesome experience, and it's only going to get bigger and better. But at the same time, you have different ways for a lot of different people to see their kids or see their grandkids, or just like John was saying, you never know what situation you have where you could see that game, which is pretty cool.
I had a grandparent come to me and he lives in Chicago. And this is during the volleyball season. And he says, I can't thank you enough. He says, you've enabled me to see my granddaughter play. And that's what happens, is that not just hearing it, but they see. It might not be, the big close-up or whatever, but they can see what's going on the court, and they appreciate that.
I do the same thing with my daughter. My daughter's a college basketball coach at a small school up in North Florida, and they travel and play tournaments in Alabama and Georgia and places like that. And they have a similar, with whoever that screening services that the school, college uses or whatever. And I get a chance to see her. I can't see her perfectly. I can't see. It's not like a portrait of her, but you see her and she's there, and it's sort of you kind of keep track of what's going on. So I could see where grandparents and grandma, uncle and aunt, things like that, nephews and things like that, they want to watch play. I really get it. But more importantly, I get the visual aspect of it is so much better for me. I'd be able to actually go on, if you hook your computer up to your TV or however you want to do it, but to see the action, being called, radio is great. You can hear it. It's all good. But when you can see it, it makes it so much better, so much better.
All right, we are going to give James another chance here, but he's going to finish up his shrimp.
Yeah, shrimp looks good, by the way.
Really by the way, okay, tell us about some of the seniors and who we should look out for on Wednesday's game.
As far as Venice players are concerned, well, I mean, our seniors are were Vince Marino and Christian Rodriguez and Malachi Weidman and Thomas Schrader. And all of them will be a part of everything that we're doing that night. But it's not just about, it's obviously not just about them. It's about all the other cast of characters that we have for sure, because they're really coming together pretty well as a group. I really like the way they handle each other, and this good banter back and forth. I really like the chemistry with them. When you're talking about us this year, you're talking about us right now. I mean, Malachi's the draw there. He's just an unbelievable athlete who's going to, just kind of ramp it up for us as far as excitement and stuff in the gym. But you can't do it that way. You need to do it with a bunch of other guys too, and that's really what we're going for. I'm going for more of the. I'm not a highlight video guy. I'm kind of like what we get done on the floor. How does 9 or 10 guys come together and try to get a job done? That's sort of where I'm at. So for us, it's just been a question of how do we get him in? How do we get that guy in? How do we find him some minutes? Because there's a lot of like players there. Nobody's really kind of above, sort of across the board. So we're just struggling with how we're going to. It's going to take us a few games. I mean, we're going to have to, we're going to try a little something on Wednesday night. We'll try a little something Friday night. We just got to get it in, but we got to get it figured out before the end of January. That's the biggest thing. So, and we'll have it obviously by then. But it's just a lot of coaching meetings, a lot of conversations, a lot of phone calls. And then just kind of trying different combinations of things to kind of give everybody a look and to see what combinations work best. Right now, they're all working okay. It's not awful, but it's got to be a hell of a lot better for sure.
All right, Wednesday he's playing Sarasota. What are you looking to see? You might not be able to make it to the game. I understand that, but as the athletic director of the county, what are you looking to see out of both schools? Should be a good contest.
Yeah, Sarasota, they've got a brand new head coach, actually the brother of the former head coach. They've got some good players. They've got some big kids. They've got some athletes. They got a nice squad. I was at their game the other night, and they lost to Manatee in a really, really close game. But I expect a really good game. Sarasota will travel well. I'm not saying it's going to be standing room only, but if you don't get there early, you probably won't get a good seat. I think it's going to be a great crowd, and I think it's going to be a battle. I've got to be neutral because my job says I need to be
Sure,
neutral.
absolutely.
But at the same time, I think, Venice has a tough team. It's going to be at home. Sarasota will have their hands full.
Sarasota does travel well. I remember the Sarasota Riverview volleyball games, and they traveled and they filled the gym for volleyball. I can only imagine what will happen with hoops now.
Yeah, and the 7 years I was the head coach at Venice, we had a lot of success against Sarasota, but we had a lot of great games, a lot of packed gyms. So I expect Wednesday night to be packed and to be a great game.
Now, will you play them twice, John?
We only play them once.
So
Obviously,
this is the only time that both these teams will see each other.
yeah, the only time, and then we're going to do a 1-1. So I'll see him next year. We'll go up to their place. We'll go every other year. So yeah, only time we'll have him this year, and then then the playoffs come at the end of the year. Maybe we see him again. I don't know. It depends on how that all shakes out.
Now, you said Friday you played DeSoto?
Friday we played DeSoto, yeah.
Now, which is not, that's in DeSoto County. Let's get James' take on that. What should we be looking for on that game?
Well, that's their first Friday night home game, so I would expect another big crowd. DeSoto notoriously are really athletic. I've not seen them play this year.
And you'll be able to see it on Remotes Army.
Be able to see that on remotes, yeah.
That's right.
But they're I actually know the guy that's the head coach. Played at South Carolina, played at DeSoto, so I'm sure he has those guys ready to go. So I think that'll be a big one on Friday night. Friday night home basketball game. I mean, how good is that? Yeah. So that's going to be fun.
Pretty awesome.
John, what are you looking to do on Friday?
Well, Friday night.
You're looking to win.
Yeah, Friday against DeSoto, we've already played DeSoto once in the preseason tournament at Lemon Bay. We beat them by 8 or 9. But Dabo didn't have, the coach there didn't have a full, he was missing some football players and stuff too. So he has them coached up pretty well. They're always competitive. They're very athletic. And he does a heck of a job out there at DeSoto. So it's going to be two good, very competitive games for sure. And like James said, a Friday night home game in your place is not a bad thing. So it's going to be kind of a fun night, and we look forward. And then we got a quick turnaround. We got a quick early out in the morning on Saturday to get to Fort Myers to play. So we're busy. We've got a lot of stuff going on.
The time for JV and the time for varsity Wednesday and Friday.
Wednesday 5:30 and 7. Friday 6 and 7:30.
So Wednesday's games 30 minutes earlier. So 5:37.
Yeah. From Sarasota, that's how we do it. They're a little closer to us. They don't really have the traffic issues. If it was a Bradenton or a Manatee County school, where I used University Park as the cutoff. If you're north of that, we're going to go to later time because the traffic is just ridiculous.
And then varsity will be 7:30 on Friday night, so it gives you a chance to maybe grab a burger down here at Pops. By the way,
well, here's what I would do: I'd come down here to Pops, I'd get myself some flatbread pizza, have a nice drink or two, and head on down to the gym and watch the basketball game. That's how I'd do it. If it was me, that's what I would do.
All right. Some final thoughts here.
No, I'm excited about seeing this season. I think. John, this is his third year as the head coach at Venice, so I'm excited to see, that progression. They've gotten a little better every year. I think you're starting to see more of a total program. This weekend, the JV played 2 games, won both of those games. I think JV's 3-1, varsity's 2-0. So I think Venice basketball with a new head coach is on the rise for sure.
Well, I tell you, let me give you a shout out real quick to our JV coach Gary Pinto.
Absolutely.
Gary came down to us from Philadelphia. He retired this summer and was looking to get back into coaching again, and so he's really taken the bull by the horns with them. A kind of an inexperienced group that he's been really working with fundamentals and stuff like that, and they tend to get better every day out. Every time I see them, and you got to remember we practice separately. The only time I get a chance to see them is when we play. And they looked really good yesterday, and they're coming around. He's got a big squad. There's 15 kids on that roster. That's a little hard to manage. And Pete Close is his assistant, who's done a great job with us. So. He's really doing a nice job as far as fundamentally skilling those kids up, and I think it's really starting to show. They played really well this weekend. I'm against pretty good teams.
Is there something you wanted to ask James before we let him go and before we sign off? In other words, we've got this brain trust here of the Sarasota County Athletic Director. Or have we sucked out all his brains on this show?
Yeah, I think we probably sucked out pretty much out of there.
Is there anything
for sure.
that you want to say?
We talk every day, so no, probably not. But I do want to tell him I appreciate him coming tonight. I think we sort of touched on last week on some rules and just I think people need, like you did a good job explaining how people need to understand how much stuff goes on you don't just roll it out. You'll roll it out at 7 at night and go play a basketball game. There's a lot of stuff that probably went on during the day, from sweeping the floor to to setting up the gym to washing uniforms. It's so glamorous.
And making sure the lights are off.
It's so glamorous. Everybody should do it. And like I said, for all the money that we get paid, jokingly. It's just you got to love it. You got to love kids. You got to love what you're doing, and that's the only way you can make it.
I'm glad you said it like that, because loving the kids is so important. How many times have you heard? I mean, even when Ron Rivera left Charlotte in that program, he kept saying about the development of the young men in his football, and these are grown men, and yet he's still worrying about development. And you're looking at it for all the sports in the whole county, and seeing each one of these coaches in these various disciplines, and they're all concerned about the development of the character of the student athlete, James.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're very blessed here in Sarasota County. We have amazing coaches. We have great student athletes. We have great administrators that are helping run these programs. But I will say this, as far as attendance, I've coached in Alabama, I've coached in Georgia, and I've coached in Florida. Our teams are probably not as supported as much as I think they should be. So if you get a chance to come out and watch, I know we have a lot going on here in Southwest Florida with our weather and the water and the golf and everything, but we have some amazing teams. And, it's basketball season from Northport to Venice to Riverview to Sarasota to Booker. We have some of the best teams in Florida, some of the best teams in the country, honestly. So, and best athletes.
And there's a reason why Dick Vitale is located in Lakewood Ranch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not better place.
He's right in the middle of it all.
There's plenty of time for you to go see a basketball game on a Tuesday or Friday or Wednesday, and then still get out on the weekend and get on the water or do all those things, which is why you're here. But at the same time, I think for a lot of people, they're missing which is amazing athletics. Some of the best athletes in America are right here in Sarasota County, and right here in Venice for sure.
I want to get a plug in too, because our Friday night game. You just rung my bell there with Dick, but our Friday night game is for pediatric cancer. Our kids will be wearing some gold. They'll be wearing our gold laces on Friday night as a support for them. We have a few things put together for that. It's close to my heart. It's close to a lot of people's hearts, and as the more I drill into this over the last year or so, when I was presented with this. Every elementary school has at least 3 kids with cancer. Every high school has at least 7 or 8 kids with cancer. The averages are ridiculous. So when when you're thinking about stuff like that, it's up to us to kind of bring that forward to our people, to our fans,
and
to our
school.
People
don't think about that. When you said 3 in each elementary school, that's amazing.
Yeah, the numbers are kind of staggering, to be honest with you. And as I learned more about it, I just thought it was a good thing to kind of bring awareness to that. We'll do some more stuff with going for the gold and all that stuff like that, but. This is our first, promotion of this, and like I said, just a little thing like gold. I tweeted out about everybody wear gold on Friday night. Forget about green and white on Friday. It's about that, and the kids will have a little, some shoelaces in just to kind of bring some attention to it. So yeah, when you mentioned Dick Vitale and you mentioned all those causes. Some people don't think about them, and I think they need to be, because that's it's all the support and all the money that they're getting to get these cures for these kids.
They can do something like that to try and raise awareness for pediatric cancer. Do they have to clear any of that through you? Is that through the local school, or they make you aware of it though, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely keep us at the district level aware of what they're doing, but that's stuff that they would clear with their principal, athletic director, those things. And our take is anything that's going to help and promote some of these big time things that we're dealing with and struggling with, all the more reason to do it.
Okay. 7 o'clock Wednesday night, Sarasota.
Yep.
Sarasota, rather.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Yep.
DeSoto is on Friday night at 7:30, and those are the varsity times.
That's the varsity times, right? Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. And on Remotes Are Me, we'll be there, and so you'll be able to see it. Make sure you subscribe at the bottom here, and then click the bell. So when we go live on Wednesday, boom, you'll be right there.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Look forward to another great week, and appreciate you guys. Appreciate everything you do for us.
Thanks, James, for coming in. How was your
shrimp?
shrimp?
Thanks for
buddy.
amazing shrimp.
Thanks
amazing
very much.
shrimp. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
sir.
We're going to catch you Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, Friday night at 7:30, and then again back here next Monday at 6 p.m. right here at Pop Sunset Grill for the Venice High School Basketball Coaches Show.
Get the pops. Get the pops.
Featuring Coach John Flynn, and you'll have another special guest.
Absolutely. We're bringing somebody else for sure to bring some new information, maybe get a different take on some things, and try to keep it fresh.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.